Welcome back to the Morning Kickoff Show. I'm your host, Matt Witt, and we're here to talk about the Minnesota Vikings' 40-3 humiliating loss to the Dallas Cowboys in front of their home crowd. This is now the third year in a row the Dallas Cowboys have come to Minnesota and humiliated us. Only this one feels a little bit different. The Minnesota Vikings at home did not come to play, as Kirk Cousins was sacked 7 times in this game, and we had to send out our punter 7 times to punt the ball. Minnesota Vikings, 40-3 at home, in a horrible loss. And now the Vikings, despite having this tied with the second best record in the league, have a negative point differential, which means we have given up more points this season than we have scored. And this should not happen in an offense that is loaded with this many playmakers. Well, what was the problem in this game? How can the Vikings have done this bad? And this is the second humiliating performance we've had this season, both against NFC playoff teams right now. Looking at the current NFC playoff picture, the Minnesota Vikings are 0-2 against NFC opponents, teams that we might have to face in the playoffs. And going down the road, down the stretch, we're going to look back at these couple of games saying these could have given us the number 1 seed. As of right now, I don't think any Vikings fans are panicking. Let's be honest. It was a terrible loss. The Vikings did not compete whatsoever. But nobody's panicking. If we lose the next 4 games, we are still first in our division. The Vikings have locked down this division. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is Kirk Cousins' division right now. Looking at it right now, there's a lot that needs to change going forward. And I feel like this was a loss that isn't making Vikings fans panic, but is humbling Vikings fans. As Vikings fans, like myself, continue to say Super Bowl competitors, continue to say this is our division. Okay, this is our division. But going forward, we continue to say how this is a team that you cannot count out. And I feel like the NFL has kind of come to this realization that the Minnesota Vikings are a team that is here to stay. However, a team that can easily be exposed like they did against the Eagles, like they did a worse performance against the Cowboys at home. Minnesota Vikings 40-3 loss. What went wrong in this game? In this episode, we are not going to put any blame on officiating. Because us Vikings fans at this point go into every game assuming the officiating is going to be horrible. What was the biggest reason? Number 1, injuries. Easily number 1 biggest reason in this game. The Vikings were terrible. Injuries. Christian Darrisaw had to leave this game with a concussion, and I think it was safe to say that he shouldn't even been playing in this game. We saw Christian Darrisaw give up his first sack of the season early into this game, and it was simply he did not look like Darrisaw. Had to rule him out. We saw Blake Brandel come out there, and once again, Blake Brandel proved why he should not be in purple and gold or in the NFL, period. This guy, yes, he had a tough performance, a tough matchup against the Dallas Cowboys defense. However, Blake Brandel could not have had a worse performance. And you can say this for this entire offensive line, as this was an offensive line that was once ranked top 5 by PFF and is now looking like dog. Everybody on this offensive line had a bad day. Brian O'Neill, one of the worst performances of his entire career. Now, again, DeMarcus Lawrence, very tough matchup. You have Micah Parsons rushing from that side. I'm not going to give all the blame to Brian O'Neill. However, he should live up to his name in this game. Going on to the rest of the offensive line, Ed Ingram, we knew he was going to be terrible. Ezra Cleveland, really stepping back. Garrett Bradbury, again, it's the same story. But this is not the reason why the Vikings offensive line was so bad. The reason why the Vikings offensive line gave up 7 sacks was because they came into this game with 0 game plan. You have some great blockers on your team who are not seeing snaps. You have some great blockers on your team who are watching time and time again sacks from the sideline. CJ Ham, why is he on the bench for this long? My favorite Viking, Hammer Time. He's one of the best blockers in this Minnesota Vikings offense, and we are not utilizing him. Johnny Munt, can we see some more 2 tight end sets on first, second down? Can we get these guys on the field? Because it is safe to say in a game like this, you cannot rely on your offensive line to buy Kirk enough time, because Kirk is not a quarterback who can extend a play and turn nothing into something. He needs either pocket time or you need to roll him out. There is no other debate other than that. And this is why I continue to say on the show. Now, I am not a Kirk Cousins hater, but I will continue to say that the Vikings should continue to open their options at quarterback. What I mean by is just taking a look and evaluating quarterbacks, taking a look and finding somebody who might be a better fit on this team. Not talking about trades. Not talking about doing the Panthers route and ending. Panthers are probably going to end up trading for Zach Wilson this offseason. No, not that route. We can't find Band-Aids for quarterbacks. We need to find studs, and you need to continue to swing until you can hit. That aside, I'm not a Kirk Cousins hater, and I said this many times. Kirk Cousins is good enough to even win us a Super Bowl. We just have to continue to open our options. That aside, Christian Darrisaw was not even the biggest loss on this Minnesota Vikings team when it comes to injuries. Andrew Booth Jr. was terrible in this game. And the difference between the Minnesota Vikings and the Cowboys in this game, the Cowboys knew what they were supposed to do. They knew that with a Caleb Evans not playing in this game, Cameron Dantzler not playing in this game, that they had to target ABJ, the second-round draft pick out of Clemson. And that's exactly what they did. They knew going into this game that them running screen passes on us was how they're going to win. They knew going into this game that having an actual playbook on third down would win them the game. The Minnesota Vikings converted 1 third down in this game, a single third down. The Cowboys converted what felt like every single opportunity they had on third down. And it just shows injuries are killing this team right now. Looking at the Minnesota Vikings, we are not suffering with injuries as a lot of teams are, but with this, you have to have a plan B is what I'm trying to say here. Now, I'm not going to give a lot of blame to Andrew Booth Jr. I'm going to be honest because I don't care how rookie cornerback looks. I would love to see them look good, but Andrew Booth Jr., none of us are overreacting. Yes, the guy should have had a better performance than he did. He's going up against Michael Gallup, somebody twice his size who has 10 times as much experience as him. Caleb Evans was great. Cameron Dantzler, sucks to see these players go down. On top of this, Dalvin Tomlinson on the defensive side of the ball, seeing Chris Tunga come out there on... Why was Chris Tunga even on the field? You have so many defensive linemen, and you choose maybe the worst option and throw him at the nose tackle? I mean, James Lynch, stud. Ross Blacklock, is he even good? Why did we trade for Ross Blacklock if he's not going to see playtime? Why is he on the sideline? I just don't understand how the Minnesota Vikings team is running and not giving certain players reps. When something goes bad, you gotta change what you're doing. And I shouldn't even be saying this on the show. And I've said this many times. Kevin O'Connell is the anti-Mike Zimmer. Kevin O'Connell and Mike Zimmer are two polar opposites. You can't get further apart on the spectrum when it comes to head coaches. And this comes with problems because what problems did Mike Zimmer have? Mike Zimmer's problem was the fact that he wasn't putting the ball into Kirk Cousins' hands. He wasn't giving Kirk Cousins risky options. He wasn't letting him take those risks that would have given Kirk Cousins much more success. With that, what was he doing that helped out Kirk Cousins? He was running I formation, giving more blockers. He was running 2 tight end sets, giving Kirk Cousins some more options to roll outside the pocket or some more time inside the pocket. And third, he was rolling Kirk Cousins outside the pocket. He was running bootleg passes, and it worked. It worked. Why? Because Kirk Cousins cannot sit inside the pocket and drop back when you are going up against the defense like the Cowboys, who are in his face all game long. So you have to kind of find this middle ground. Kevin O'Connell is far superior when it comes to running an offense, and I believe Mike Zimmer shouldn't even have his nose in the offense whatsoever. For Kevin O'Connell, what should he do in my opinion? You got to add more blockers. You got to utilize CJ Ham, utilize Johnny Mundt. These guys are so good in the run blocking game, so good in pass protection. Or if you're not going to do that, move Kirk Cousins around. Kirk Cousins can't obviously run as fast as Micah Parsons, but him running from Micah Parsons on the run would be a lot better of an option than him dropping back 15, 16 times a game to get sacked 7 of those times. And then looking on the defensive side of the ball for the Minnesota Vikings, this was awful. I mean, if I'm pointing the finger at one player in this Minnesota Vikings defense and saying, you're the problem, well, you can pick the entire all 11 guys in defense, but if I'm picking one, it's not going to be Andrew Booth Jr. And like I've said many times on the show, I am not asking rookie corners to do great against players like Michael Gallup. Nobody expects them to have a good day. I mean, Sauce Gardner is special. You don't see rookie corners doing that good. A Caleb Evans for the Minnesota Vikings, he's special. How often do you see rookie corners able to compete against starting wideouts in this league? Not very often. It's one of the toughest positions to play, and I can't put a lot of the blame on a player like Andrew Booth Jr. for not having a great debut, because this was his first start with the team, first start in the NFL, period. So it's just, you can't give a lot of blame to him. If I'm putting my finger at one person, it is going to be Jordan Hicks. For the fact that he could not get his open field tackles, for the fact that he could not get his hands on Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. We knew going into this game. I knew going into this game. I said going into this game. The Cowboys are going to run the rock. The Cowboys are going to feed their running backs, run those running back screens, do everything in their power to get their running backs one-on-one with our linebackers, to get their running backs one-on-one with our safeties. We knew this going into the game. And this is why I said the number one thing, getting your open field tackles. And the Vikings did exactly what I said not to do. And this led to Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott combining for 231 yards and 4 touchdowns on this Minnesota Vikings defense. It's just seeing our linebackers take such a leap backwards these last couple of weeks from how they were earlier is a slap in the face, because these are the guys that I've been hyping up on this Minnesota Vikings defense. Vikings defense has been great at turning the ball over. We're not able to do it in this game. Great at stopping the run. Once again, we're not able to do it in this game. Great on third down. Once again, terrible third down defense in this game. Cowboys, I'll give it to them. They have maybe the best running back duo in the league. There is a lot of very good running back duos where they are interchangeable talents, like Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott are in this league. And you see this around the league. We're looking at Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, for example. These guys are rotating the running backs out, and you're sending a fully 100% running back on the field. They're going to look good. And this is what we're going to likely see continue going forward in the NFL is these running back duos. And the Vikings have a very good one with Alexander Mattison and Dalvin Cook. So what needs to change for the Minnesota Vikings? Like I've mentioned, I don't believe any Vikings fans are panicking right now. I believe this wasn't a panic mode game, but more of just a humbling loss. Because us Vikings fans know, probably not the best team in the league. Let's be honest. The way the Eagles have been looking, the way the Kansas City Chiefs have been looking lately, the Cowboys defense, I mean, are we going to say that this team is the Super Bowl favorite? No, not anymore. But what we can say is this team we have right now is a team that is here to stay. This team we have right now is not done. This is not a loss that is going to make us hit the panic button. It might make us hit the panic button on Kirk Cousins and maybe look for a more mobile quarterback. But that aside, we finally have a good head coach who's going to be here for a long time. We have a lot of young generational talent on this team. This Vikings team is here to stay. This Vikings team is going to be in the playoffs this year, win their division, maybe make some noise, hopefully make some noise in the playoffs. Going forward, this is not a team that we are going to hit the panic mode on like we did for the Vikings last year when we lost to the Cowboys at home. Looking at it, Minnesota Vikings, big things needs to change. Obviously, we need to change our offensive scheme. We need to find a balance between this far conservative offensive scheme and this very risky offensive scheme, because this is exactly what the Vikings have done. We have Mike Zimmer on one end, who runs the most conservative offense, and it killed the Vikings last 4 years. You have Kevin O'Connell, who runs a very risky offense where Kirk Cousins doesn't have any time inside the pocket, doesn't roll out Kirk Cousins, doesn't give him additional blockers, and both seem to fail in certain games. You have to find this middle ground between these two offensive schemes. And this is why I say CJ Ham, Johnny Munt, let's get more guys involved on this Minnesota Vikings offense, especially when your best player in your offensive line is out. And Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks need to be able to build this bond. We have a lot of veterans in this defense. We can't be making rookie mistakes. And this is what we saw in this game. I mean, too many screen passes that killed us, too many short passes. And then you have Dak Prescott targeting ABJ outside the numbers. It was just not a good performance for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not going to give him a nickname right now. Andrew Booth, I should just say. Looking at it for the Minnesota Vikings, defense, offense, a lot needs to change going forward, especially next week. We need Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks to play up, as next week we are hosting the New England Patriots this Thursday. Short week for the Minnesota Vikings. I believe we have already ruled out some players for this game, but you can watch this game Thanksgiving night, Thursday, 7:20 Central Time on NBC. Like I've mentioned earlier, Vikings haven't beat the Patriots since Tom Brady was a backup quarterback, and the Vikings are not very good on primetime. Don't get your hopes up for this game, but you can continue to ride this Vikings hype train. Like I mentioned, Vikings, if they lose this game, lose the next 4 games, I'm still going to have them as my favorite for the NFC North, just simply because of how weak this NFC North is looking. The Detroit Lions just stepped up to second in this division. Incredible.